For as long as I can remember, video game movies have sucked. Let's face it, people. Video game movies have been pretty atrocious. Even today's video game movies still are nothing great. In fact, most of them are pure garbage. I mean, it's relatively not video game movies have not done well. Especially stuff done by Uwe Boll. He's the most notorious, I believe, out of everyone for making shitty video game films. But you know what? Something happens at one point. And occasionally, in a rare occasion, a video game movie will be good. Hello everyone, Ash here, and tonight I will be reviewing Street Fighter the movie. Now, Street Fighter movie is based off the popular game Street Fighter 2, one of the best fighting games of all time. So, how does the movie compare to the game? The story here is pretty simple, actually. Basically, Major and Bison is trying to take over all of Thailand. He gets kidnapped hostages, and he's getting ready to execute them if the governments of the world don't pay him $20 billion. I believe that's the right count. So, Colonel Guile must stop him. All around, the plot here is pretty simple. It's your pretty mediocre plot you see in most movies like this. Colonel Guile is played by Jean-Claude Van Damme. My first thoughts when I saw Jean-Claude Van Damme playing Guile, I was kind of hesitant at first. I didn't think he'd be able to do it. I thought his accent would absolutely hurt him because of Guile is supposed to be an American and Jean-Claude Van Damme does have an accent. I thought that would hurt him, but you know what? It doesn't really affect him that much. And to be honest, he does a good job as Guile. I actually did enjoy him. In fact, you know what? He's badass. That's how badass Colonel Guile is. Bunch of troops there with guns. He pulls out a knife. They don't want to take him on. You don't fuck with this guy.
Son, we're pushing back the enemy, but the skirmish is on every level. Still no sign of Bison.
Oh, he had a bunch of troops there behind him. He's still badass. Now, Major and Bison is played by Raul Julia. Raul Julia, without hesitation, is absolutely awesome as Bison. He comes off very egotistical, very over the top. He's great.
You take risks, Doctor. Do not presume so much on my good nature.
Game over!
Raul Julia really did steal the show in this movie. He does a great job. He's funny. He's egotistical. He was, I will say this, the perfect choice for Major and Bison.
I was hoping to face Guile personally on the battlefield. One gentleman warrior to another, in respectful combat. Then I would snap his spine.
Just listen to his laugh. You don't fuck with a guy who has this type of laugh. Raul Julia, without hesitation, is the best Bison of all time. Especially better than who was his name? The guy who did the Bison in Street Fighter Legend of Chong-Li, which I don't want us to talk about that movie. But yeah, Raul Julia was a perfect Bison, and Jean-Claude Van Damme was a great Guile. I give them both thumbs up for for doing a great job with their roles. Another positive for this film is that it's a corny film. It doesn't take itself seriously, but you know what? It doesn't need to. I like the fact this movie came out of the gates just being campy and corny, and it works. And you know what? I'd rather have it corny than take itself seriously like Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li. Ugh.
Own weapons. Preto! Sanobu! Afu!
You're all under arrest.
Any other new business?
That's great news, General. Congratulations.
On the contrary, I mourn.
Okay. Quick! Change the channel!
敵の暗殺組織の壁を突破できました。
よくやった。
はい。
人質の居所を探すんだ。
You got paid?
It's a cheesy, campy, corny film that doesn't take itself seriously, but that's what makes it work, is the fact that it doesn't take itself seriously. It doesn't need to. You know, it could have been like Street Fighter The Legend of Chun-Li and took itself all seriously, but then the movie would have sucked and I would have hated it. It would have been just like every other video game movie out there. It would have been a horrible, atrocious joke. You know, this is one those scenes I really did enjoy, and I think that's one of this movie's biggest strengths right there, has got to be just the fact that it doesn't take itself seriously. It's corny as hell, and there's many great scenes just like that one. Now, I did enjoy this movie. I did feel like there were a few problems with it. The music in general just kind of never was all that great. It just was very weak. It had a very weak soundtrack in general. And I did feel like some of the action scenes and some of the fights weren't all that well done. I felt like they could have been done a little bit better for a film like this. I think the fight with Colonel Guile and Bison's awesome, and that's the best one. But some of them felt a little bit too rushed, or just never really were all that great. But I think the biggest problem with this film, and without hesitation, is the way they handled some of the Street Fighter characters. Unlike Bison and Guile, some of these characters really were not done well. DJ, Tomahawk, Dhalsim. In fact, he played a scientist in the film. Unfortunately, I didn't feel like that was really an appropriate role for him. And even Blanca, really, even though they put him in this film, I didn't think he really needed to be in this one. He just felt to me like he looked more like a caveman than he looked like an actual Street Fighter than the Blanca we knew. And also, Ken and even my favorite Street Fighter, Ryu, were poorly done. I felt like, even though they had more screen time than all the other characters, they felt to me more like, they just felt like they didn't really have a place in this film at times. I felt like they were just there to be there. That's how it kind of felt with a lot of the Street Fighters in this film, is that some of them just were there to be there, and really, you didn't need to put them in. You could have taken them out and the movie would have been just as great. All the other Street Fighters that I didn't name, like Chun-Li or Zangief, or Sagat or Vega, they all do a good job. I mean, all those characters I thought were handled much better. My other real complaint with this film has got to be some of the acting, especially the person doing Chun-Li really was not a great actor. But those all around are my only real complaints about this film. Even though this isn't a great film, it still is a good film to watch. It's very enjoyable, and I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, especially being a game that got turned into a movie. Really, this came out and surprised the hell out of me. That it was actually this enjoyable. I enjoy it. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it. It was one of those films like to sit back, watch, and enjoy. And for being a video game movie, this is really was surprised that they did a good job with this one. All around though, Street Fighter the movie, I'm gonna give it a solid C. You know what? And let's hope for the future video game movies finally get good. But you know what? We'll have to wait and see. Anyways, this is Ash saying so long. I am out. Good night.